The baby monitor crackled again. Josh Walker didn't look up right away. He was knee-deep in lines of code, debugging a client's network. But the sound sharp, static, then silence cut through his concentration like a blade. From the hallway came a low growl. Josh looked up. "Megan, you hear that?" Megan stood by the changing table, holding 6-month-old Emily against her chest. She shook her head. "Hear what?" "Rex just growled." Their German shepherd stood in the doorway to the nursery, body rigid, eyes fixed on the crib. His lips curled slightly. Josh pushed his laptop aside. "Rex, what's going on, buddy?" Rex didn't blink, just growled deeper, like something ancient and instinctual had taken over. "Josh," Megan's voice dipped. "That's not his usual growl." "I know." Suddenly Rex lunged. He slammed into the nursery door, pawing, barking, teeth bared. Megan flinched back, clutching Emily. Josh ran. "Hey! Rex, down!" But Rex wouldn't back off. He was barking straight into the room, fur bristling, standing between the baby and the crib like a sentry under fire. Josh reached for Rex's collar, but the dog snapped his head around, not at Josh, but at something unseen in the room. "Josh, what's happening?" Megan's voice trembled now. "Why won't he let her in the crib?" Rex moved again. This time he planted himself directly in front of the crib, blocking it, pacing like a soldier. His ears twitched. A low snarl vibrated from his throat. Josh stepped into the nursery. "All right, that's enough. What's gotten into you?" Then he smelled it. Faint, sharp, like metal and something rotten. "Megan, you smell that?" She hesitated. "Kind of. What is that?" Josh walked closer to the crib. Rex growled louder, stepping between him and the baby. "Megan, take Emily back for a second." Megan pulled her close. "Josh, you're scaring me." "I'm scaring myself." Josh knelt by the crib. Rex stayed next to him, tail stiff, eyes fixed on the built-in closet beside the crib. Josh leaned closer, hand on the floor. Click. Barely audible. "What was that?" Megan asked. "I don't know." Josh touched the baseboard. Warm. The baby monitor buzzed to life. Static. Then a faint voice. "Watching." Josh yanked the monitor's plug. Silence. Megan stared at him, wide-eyed. "Did you hear?" "I heard it." Josh looked at Rex, who hadn't stopped growling. The room suddenly felt cold, wrong. They moved Emily into their bedroom for the night, but Rex refused to leave the nursery. He lay at the base of the crib, eyes never closing, ears twitching, like he was waiting for something. At 3:12 a.m. Rex barked, loud, one single bark that shook the hallway. Josh bolted upright. Megan gasped beside him. Then silence again. He grabbed the bat under the bed and sprinted. The nursery door was open. Rex stood in the center of the room, body rigid. The closet was ajar. Josh's blood ran cold. Inside, barely visible in the moonlight, something metal. A small black box with wires and a blinking blue light. Josh froze. "Rex, what is that?" Rex barked again, stepping forward, standing between Josh and the device. Josh called 911. By the time officers arrived, Megan was sobbing softly, holding Emily on the couch. Josh waited at the front door, bat still in hand. Rex hadn't left the nursery. The first officer in was an older man, grey hair, calm voice. He knelt beside Rex. "Easy, boy. You K9?" Rex didn't blink, just looked at the box. The bomb squad arrived within minutes. It wasn't an explosive, but it was worse in some ways. A chemical dispersal unit. Homemade. Low yield. Enough to slowly leak a sedative compound into the air. Undetectable in small doses. Fatal with prolonged exposure. "You're lucky your dog caught it," the tech said. "You wouldn't have." Josh couldn't speak. Someone built this and planted it behind your baby's crib, the officer continued. This wasn't random. Josh sat down, legs giving out. But who? Why? Megan whispered. The monitor. The static. Someone's been watching us. The officer turned to Rex, who sat silently, eyes on the wall. You saved her life, didn't you? He said quietly. Rex finally blinked. That was all. Josh stared at the blackened outline inside the closet where the box had been, at the tiny hole drilled into the panel, right beside where his daughter's crib had sat. He thought of the wire he'd never noticed, the flicker in the monitor, the voice. This wasn't over. Not yet. 2 days later, the Walker house was crawling with investigators. Josh reviewed every line of code in their home network, found an unfamiliar device logged in remotely. Megan searched her memory for anyone who might hold a grudge. They came up empty. But Rex, he never left Emily's side. Not even for a second. Neighbors began to talk. Some praised Rex like a hero. Others murmured about the device and about the voice, about the Walker baby and the strange dog who wouldn't sleep. That night, a local news van parked down the street. Josh didn't speak to them. He was too busy installing reinforced locks and a new surveillance system. Megan was in the nursery, holding Emily, watching Rex sit by the crib, his body tense but quiet. He won't even blink, she whispered. Josh nodded. He knows more than we do. And Rex? He just kept watching the wall, waiting, guarding, always guarding. 2 days after the discovery, silence hung over the Walker household like fog. Josh barely slept. Megan wouldn't put Emily down for more than a few minutes. Even the sound of wind brushing the old windows made them flinch. And Rex? He hadn't left the nursery. He stood post beside the crib, alert, breathing slow, muscles tight, watching, like he knew this wasn't over. Franklin, Oregon, was supposed to be safe. A sleepy town with picket fences and weekend farmers' markets. Not a place where chemical devices appeared behind a baby's crib. Josh had moved them here for peace. After what happened to their first daughter. He still couldn't talk about that. Detective Lara Jennings showed up on Thursday morning. She was mid-40s, sharp-eyed, wore jeans and a flannel instead of a badge. Her first words weren't to Josh or Megan. They were to Rex. You the one who found it? She asked, kneeling. Rex didn't move, just looked at her, steady, focused. Jennings nodded. Good dog. She stood up. This is going to sound insane, but this wasn't a one-off. 2 other incidents. Similar devices, different targets, all connected to families with infants. We think someone's testing something. Josh went cold. Testing what? She looked at him. How much it takes to make a child stop breathing. Megan clutched Emily tighter. Jennings continued. The tech used is crude, but smart. A homemade dispersal. It wouldn't have killed an adult, at least not quickly. But an infant, it could suppress breathing within hours. Josh swallowed hard. You said other families? Jennings nodded. Portland and Corvallis. Same setup. Both families had baby monitors. Both used smart systems with internal Wi-Fi. Both had cameras tampered with. No witnesses, just the dogs. What happened to them? Megan asked. They didn't have a Rex, Jennings said quietly. Josh sat down. Hard. Jennings pulled out her phone, showed them a picture of a circuit board. This was found inside your wall, she said. It was wired into your power line and connected to your router. Someone knew what they were doing. Josh stared. I check my system every week. I built the damn thing. They used a ghost MAC address, spoofed it, masked inside your printer logs. Clever. So it was remote controlled. Jennings nodded. They were watching, likely using your baby monitor's feed to time it. Megan said nothing. just stared at Emily, as if memorizing every inch of her face. Jennings turned to Rex. "Your dog has better instincts than any tech I've got. If he hadn't intervened—" She left the sentence hanging. That night, Josh couldn't shake the feeling someone was still watching them. He double-checked the router, replaced the network switch, unplugged every camera, but something still gnawed at him. Around midnight, he checked the driveway cam now on a separate closed system. He froze. A dark SUV, parked 2 houses down, headlights off, engine running. Josh stared. 5 minutes passed. 10. The car didn't move. Then a shadow stepped out. Tall, hooded, walked down the sidewalk. Stopped in front of the Walker's yard. Josh grabbed the bat. By the time he got to the window, the SUV was gone. Megan found him pacing at 1:30 a.m. "Josh, you need sleep. Someone was out there. It could have been anyone." "No, it wasn't." Rex growled from the nursery. Josh looked at Megan. "He knows." Megan didn't argue. The next morning, Megan drove Emily to her sister's 2 towns over. Josh stayed behind to meet with Jennings again. Rex stayed too. Jennings brought backup this time. A guy in tech gear named Marvin. Skinny, nervous, brilliant. He walked the house with scanners, stopped in the laundry room. "Here," he said, "behind this panel, fresh drywall." They opened it, found another device. Not a dispersal unit this time. A relay, a signal booster. Marvin looked sick. "They built a network inside your house." Josh staggered back. "Why us?" Jennings didn't answer, but her face tightened. Marvin pulled something from the wall. A small sticker. A cartoon fox, wearing sunglasses. Josh blinked. That was the logo from Emily's baby formula brand. "Ibi. It's a tag," Marvin said. "It shouldn't be here. They're using commercial packaging stickers to leave messages." Jennings took photos, bagged it. Outside, Rex barked. Not loud, but sharp. One bark. Focused. They ran out back. No one there, but the latch on the back gate was open. Jennings swore. "They were here!" Josh turned to Rex. "Where?" Rex darted into the trees behind the fence. They followed. 3 minutes in, they found it. Footprints. Fresh. Muddy. Leading to a small wooden crate, half buried near a tree. Inside, another device. Wires, plastic, a phone, burner. On the screen, a single message. "Try again tonight." Jennings' face darkened. "They're coming back." Josh looked at Rex, who was sniffing the air, tense. "We're not running," Josh said. "We set a trap." Jennings hesitated. "You sure?" Josh looked at his house. "They picked the wrong family." Rex growled. Once, then looked toward the road, waiting again. It started with a toy. A yellow plastic giraffe, tucked behind the crib like it had been forgotten. Megan spotted it while vacuuming. She picked it up, squinting. "Josh, this doesn't look familiar. Did someone drop this off?" Josh, hunched over his laptop at the kitchen island, didn't look up. "A giraffe? No. Maybe it was in the moving box." She turned it over. The logo had been scratched off, replaced by a red sticker shaped like a heart. She peeled it off. Underneath was a chip. Small, unlabeled, embedded inside the plastic shell. Her stomach dropped. "Josh." He came over, took it from her, and cracked it open with a flathead screwdriver. Inside, a transmitter, blinking once every few seconds. "That's not a toy," he said. "That's surveillance." Megan took a step back, arms wrapping instinctively around Emily. "They were in the house. Again." Josh called Jennings. She arrived within the hour with Marvin. While Marvin set up scanners, Rex paced the hallway. Every few minutes, he'd stop at a room and let out a low, short bark, almost like a signal. And every time he barked, they found something. A tiny circuit board inside a stuffed lamb, a black tag hidden in a pacifier, a bead that looked plastic but housed a capacitor. 10 in total, spread across every corner of their home. Jennings leaned on the doorframe, her face pale. This isn't random. They're tracking patterns, building profiles. Profiles of what? Josh asked. Infant neurological data, movement, breathing cycles, audio reactions to sound. That chip in the giraffe? She held it up. It had a mic. Megan stared at Emily. They've been listening to her cry. Marvin turned his laptop to show them. And mapping where she sleeps, when she wakes up, even when she feeds. Rex growled. Josh clenched his jaw. They turned our baby into a lab rat. Later that night, Josh tried to work, but his hands shook too much to type. He checked the backyard camera feed. Static. He frowned. Not again. The front yard camera flickered, then cut out. He stood. A motion alert flashed on the monitor. Someone crossing the lawn. Josh grabbed the bat. Stay here, he called to Megan. Rex was already at the door, tail stiff, ears up. Outside, the night was quiet. Too quiet. Then a figure darted along the edge of the fence. Rex bolted. Josh followed, feet pounding the grass, breath clouding in the cold air. The figure tried to scale the back gate, but Rex launched. The dog slammed into his legs, sending him crashing down. Josh caught up, panting. Don't move! The man tried to crawl. Rex snarled and clamped his jaws just tight enough around the man's arm to keep him still. Controlled. Professional. By the time Jennings and backup arrived, the man was on his knees, handcuffed and shaking. Jennings pulled a small toolkit from his jacket. Bugging gear, burner phone, tiny cameras. Josh stared. Why Emily? The man hesitated, then said, Because she matched. Matched what? Megan demanded, cradling Emily inside the house. The man looked up at her. Your daughter has a neural marker, identified during prenatal tests. Someone sold the data. Jennings stepped forward. Who's behind this? The man smirked. You wouldn't believe me. Try. He whispered. Jennings stiffened. That company was blacklisted. They went private. Now they contract freelancers. They're testing a new wave of cognitive implants. They need infants, ones with a certain potential. Josh's face drained. You're saying our daughter was picked before she was even born? Yes. They're running illegal human trials, Jennings said, voice hard. They don't call it that, the man said. They call it shaping. That night, Megan didn't speak. She sat in the nursery, rocking Emily slowly, while Rex lay by her feet, head resting on his paws, eyes open. Josh dug into his old encrypted backups. He'd kept copies of hospital scans, appointment files. One file stood out, a flagged lab result from 22 weeks. Neurodifferential marker, positive. Probability score, 97%. It had been marked archived non-clinical, never shared, never discussed. But someone had seen it. Josh looked at the sender's address. It didn't belong to the hospital. Marvin, he said, I need you to trace this email header. Marvin looked. It reroutes through 6 proxies, but I can break it. He typed fast, eyes darting. 10 minutes later, he leaned back. The server endpoint resolves to an offshore lab in Malta, connected to a private network called Grayvine. Jennings froze. Grayvine was part of a federal investigation into behavioral surveillance tech. Guess what they specialize in now? Marvin said. Infant neural prediction. You feed it enough baby data, it starts forecasting brain development before it happens. They're trying to engineer kids, Josh said quietly. No, Jennings replied. They're trying to weaponize instinct. That morning, Rex wouldn't eat. He wouldn't sleep. He sat by the front door, waiting. Josh opened the laptop to one final anomaly. In the hacker's burner phone, a hidden folder of live video feeds, not just of Emily, but of at least 20 other children, some crying, some being tested. Megan turned away, tears running silently. They're watching everything, she whispered, and no one's stopping them. Josh looked at Rex, who rose slowly and walked to the window. Outside, across the street, a man in a grey coat leaned on a lamppost, watching, smiling. Rex's ears twitched. He let out a low, cold growl. Josh whispered, "He's not afraid of us." Megan stood beside Rex. "He should be." And Rex kept watching, waiting. The sky was overcast, thick with clouds that seemed to press down on the house like a weight. By late afternoon, the air felt heavier than usual. Still, Josh worked through the kitchen window, trying to stabilize the isolated server they'd built overnight. Marvin had set up counter-surveillance protocols, rerouting signal patterns through dummy ports. Jennings had left just after dawn to file an emergency escalation with federal cybersecurity. Megan was upstairs with Emily, trying to keep the baby's routine as normal as possible. But nothing felt normal, especially not with Rex pacing the hallway, ears pricked, eyes flicking toward every creak in the floorboards, every gust of wind. Josh stepped outside to check the signal antennas hidden behind the garage. As he rounded the side of the house, he froze. The backyard gate was open. He distinctly remembered locking it. He spun around, heart pounding, and sprinted back into the house. "Rex!" he shouted. The dog was already charging past him, down the steps and across the yard. His bark ripped through the quiet. Josh followed. Near the tree line, something caught his eye, a glint of metal, half buried. Rex stopped, nose low, body rigid. Josh knelt and pulled back the leaves. A motion sensor, newly installed. Next to it, a pair of footprints leading deeper into the woods. Not old. Hours at most. Josh ran back inside and slammed the door. "Megan, pack the baby bag. Now." She didn't ask questions. They loaded Emily into the car and drove 2 towns over to Megan's sister's place again. But Josh didn't stay this time. He went back. He wasn't going to run anymore. At 9:17 p.m, the power flickered. Just once. Josh was in the living room with Rex. The generator auto-switched seamlessly, but he still felt it. Then came the knock. 3 soft taps on the front door. Josh stood slowly, picked up the bat. Rex growled low, deep, like a rumble rolling from the earth. Josh opened the door. No one was there, but on the welcome mat sat an envelope. Inside, a photo. It was Emily, at the park, taken from behind a tree. Josh's hands curled into fists. He turned to Rex. "We're ending this tonight." Marvin came back at midnight. He had something urgent. "There's a second network," he said, breathless. "Nested inside the data packets. Someone's running a live trial off your home's grid. They've been logging everything Rex does, his reactions, his pacing." Josh blinked. "Wait, Rex?" "Yes. They're not just studying Emily. They're studying him. Your dog is a threat to them. And they know it." Jennings burst in through the door 20 minutes later, hair soaked from rain. "I got something," she said. "One of our contacts inside a federal agency tipped me. Grapevine isn't just running surveillance. They've been planting customized neural triggers, testing them. On animals first, then infants." Megan stepped inside the room, having returned with Emily. "Neural triggers? Like mind control?" "No, more like emotional mapping," Jennings said. "They track what evokes a reaction: fear, calm, aggression, and see how they can condition responses in early development. or in dogs with specialized training. Josh looked down at Rex. He figured them out before we did. Jennings nodded. And now they're trying to silence that. Marvin turned his screen. They activated something. Look, on the map, a red ping. Outside the perimeter. Then 2, then 5, all converging on the house. Who the hell are they sending? Josh asked. Jennings pulled her weapon. Contractors. Unbadged, non-official. Probably paid in crypto. But make no mistake, they're trained. Rex growled sharply, barked once, then moved to the hallway window. Josh turned off all lights. The house went silent. Jennings moved like a ghost between rooms. Marvin unplugged every network line and ran a backup protocol from his laptop battery. Megan held Emily in the bathroom upstairs, heart pounding in her chest. At 1:03 a.m., a glass pane shattered in the sunroom. Then came boots. Josh took position behind the kitchen counter. Rex was already beside him. 2 men entered. Clear left, one whispered. But they didn't see Rex coming. He lunged, hit the first man in the chest, knocking him into the wall. The second man raised a stun baton, but Josh tackled him from behind, slamming his arm into the tile. Jennings shot out the window and hit a third figure trying to climb in. Rex didn't let up. He pinned the first man down until he screamed, tossing his gun aside. Then headlights lit up the driveway. A black van. Doors opened. But not more attackers. 2 children stepped out, confused, dazed, no older than 4 or 5, followed by a woman limping, mouth gagged. Jennings ran out, gun up. No resistance. The woman collapsed in her arms. "Help us," she whispered. "We escaped. They were using our kids." Police sirens finally sounded in the distance. Gravine's people were gone, but they'd left behind just enough to send a message and a warning. By 4 a.m. the property was secured. The woman's name was Ivy Santos. She'd been a systems engineer for Simvacin, forced into silence. The children? Her nieces. Kidnapped as leverage. She told them everything. Locations, funding, experiments, and the name of the project, Dawn Route. "They're mapping instinct," she said. "Not just for control, for weaponization. They want to create children who react faster than machines, dogs who can track patterns without prompts, humans who never hesitate." Josh looked at Rex, resting now, side rising and falling. "You already have that," he whispered. "And his name is Rex." Jennings nodded. "Now we go after the ones who built this." And this time, they had more than proof. They had witnesses, and a dog who refused to look away. Because the hunt wasn't over. Not yet. The next morning, the house smelled like cordite and cold sweat. Josh sat at the kitchen table, a half-empty cup of coffee in front of him, hands clasped tight. Jennings stood across from him with Ivy Santos, the former Simvacin engineer, who was staring at a floor plan Marvin had printed. "This isn't just about your family," Ivy said. "You were one of many. But the difference is, you had Rex." She pointed at the red zones on the map. Dawn Route isn't a single facility. It's decentralized. They store fragments of the project across regions, device samples in Utah, subject logs in Nevada, server backups in southern Canada. But the central data core? That's in Anchorage. "Alaska?" Josh leaned forward. "They thought no one would look there," Ivy replied. "Gravine buried it under a shell NGO and orphan support program." Marvin nodded, scrolling through satellite images. "They masked the building's signal, but I picked up pings barely. Encrypted broadcasts at irregular intervals. Pattern fits a remote access server." Jennings folded her arms. "They're controlling trials from that location? And collecting live biometric data, from infants, from field agents, from canines." Ivy looked at Rex. "Especially dogs like him." Rex sat beside Josh's chair. alert, watching her. Ivy's eyes didn't leave him. You don't understand. He's part of their model. He's the outlier. What do you mean? Megan asked from the doorway, holding Emily. They had data on trained working dogs, but Rex's file, it was flagged as unpredictable. Untraceable responses. He disrupts their algorithms. Josh looked down. He was never supposed to be part of the test. But he broke the model, Ivy said. That's why they're escalating. Rex growled once. Marvin's laptop beeped. Got something, he said. One of the relays is still transmitting. It's broadcasting to a remote drop box, but it's pinging a local receiver first inside the town. Jennings straightened. Franklin? Less than a mile from here. A field station, probably a mobile node disguised as a shed or repair van. Josh stood. Then let's go. They rolled up in 2 cars, Jennings in the lead, Marvin and Josh in the back. Rex sat in the passenger seat beside Josh, ears up, nose twitching. The signal took them to an abandoned lot behind an old laundromat. An unmarked utility van sat parked behind a chain-link fence. No plates. No logos. Jennings popped the trunk. We go quiet. No backup. If they spot us, they'll dump the drive. Josh opened the door. Rex jumped out, nose to the ground immediately. They approached from the side. The van's windows were blacked out. Josh circled to the back, hand on the bat in his coat. Rex stopped beside the front door, barked once low and flat. Josh nodded. Jennings swung the door open. Inside, a desk with 3 monitors, a generator, a comms array, and a hard drive tower. And on the floor, duct-taped to the undercarriage, was a blinking black box. Bomb? Josh asked. Marvin knelt beside it. No. Auto-purge. Wipes the data if the van moves. Jennings grabbed the drives. Marvin snipped the cables from the purge trigger. Josh looked at the monitors. Live feeds from other homes, not just in Oregon, California, Arizona, even as far as Ohio. And in one corner of the screen, Emily's room. Static now, but the timestamp read, last signal, 2 hours ago. Megan had already left with Emily to stay with a friend in Hillsborough, but they'd been watching, still tracking. They're not done with us, Josh muttered. Marvin loaded the drives into a backpack. Just as they exited, a shot rang out. They dove for cover. Rex growled and lunged toward the fence. Across the lot, a black SUV peeled away from the alley. A gloved man leaned out the window, firing one last shot before disappearing into traffic. Rex chased the vehicle until it was out of sight. He returned, panting, eyes locked forward. He knew they were there, Josh whispered. Jennings radioed the precinct. We need a trace on that SUV. Plates were scraped. Might be a shell company. Back at the house, Marvin plugged in the drives. What they found changed everything. Inside the encrypted files, experiment logs labeled by phase. Phase 1, emotional mapping. Phase 2, stimulus override. Phase 3, remote reinforcement. And then, beneath a folder marked live subjects, was something else. A video. Megan, from years ago. She was in a hospital gown, in a hallway, looking pale, speaking with a nurse. This is from before Emily, she said, voice shaking. Josh stared. What the hell is this? Ivy leaned in. They've been tracking you longer than you thought. Jennings clicked through the metadata. The video wasn't just surveillance, it had a timestamp, embedded coordinates. From Anchorage. Marvin turned. They were running diagnostics on you before Emily was even born. Megan dropped into a chair. They planned all of this, years ago. Josh nodded slowly. This wasn't an accident. Jennings clenched her jaw. This is targeted engineering. You were part of Dawn Route before Dawn Route had a name. Ivy stood. Then we know where we go next. Josh looked at Rex. Alaska, he said. We're taking this to them. Rex's ears flicked, his head tilted, and he barked. Once. Sharp, certain. The plane touched down in Anchorage just after midnight. Wind howled across the tarmac. Ice laced the runway like spiderwebs. Josh stepped onto solid ground, backpack tight to his shoulder, eyes scanning the darkness. Jennings followed, hand on her concealed holster. Ivy and Marvin trailed behind, wrapped in thick jackets. Rex jumped down from the cargo ramp like he didn't feel the cold at all. His paws hit the snow with quiet force. His nose twitched. His eyes scanned. He was ready. They didn't speak much during the ride into town. Ivy's contact had secured a cabin just off the grid, no cell towers, no routers. Just a wood stove and a landline. Josh didn't sleep. Neither did Rex. At 4:12 am, Ivy unfolded a map across the kitchen table. The server farm is buried under a children's rehab clinic. Front group. It's 3 miles north. There's a service tunnel under the south wing. If we breach there, we won't trigger the alarms. Security? Jennings asked. Rotating contractors. No local police. The data room is down 3 flights, shielded behind biometric locks. But I still have my access code. Marvin frowned. Assuming they didn't change it. Ivy stared at him. They won't. I helped build the encryption. If they changed the pattern, the system resets. Too much risk for them. Josh leaned back. What about Emily? If they know we're here. They do, Ivy said. But they're not watching her anymore. Josh narrowed his eyes. What? She hesitated. Because they got what they needed from her. Jennings froze. Say that again. She matched the parameters. Dawn Route wasn't about conditioning anymore. It was about replication. They wanted to create a neural fingerprint based on Rex and Emily. Because of the bond. They modeled instinctual loyalty. Josh slammed his hand on the table. So she was the blueprint. Ivy nodded. They called it Echo Strain. Rex barked sharply from the window. Everyone turned. A black SUV rolled by. Headlights off. They found us, Jennings said. Josh grabbed his jacket. Then we move now. The facility looked like a regular outpatient center from the outside. Soft lighting, vinyl posters of smiling kids. They approached from the wooded south perimeter. Jennings cut the chain on the service tunnel. They moved fast. Silent. Rex led the way. Inside, it smelled of antiseptic and metal. The tunnel led to a maintenance stairwell. They descended 3 flights. Ivy entered her code at the server room access panel. The door clicked. Inside, cold light, rows of machines, the hum of massive data engines. And in the middle 3 glass pods, each one held a child. Still, breathing. Wires trailing from their heads. Oh my God, Marvin whispered. They're alive, Ivy said. They're testing active interfaces, beta version of Echo Strain. Jennings moved fast. I'll secure the hallway. Josh approached the nearest pod. The girl inside couldn't have been more than 6. Eyes closed, faint pulse. Then one of the monitors lit up. Camera feed. Megan. On a hospital bed. Emily in her arms. What is this? Josh asked. Ivy stepped closer. It's a simulation. They're generating stress scenarios. They wanted to measure Rex's response remotely and project it onto a digital twin. You mean they cloned Rex's behavior? Not just that, she said. They're trying to install it into humans. Suddenly the door slammed behind them. A man stepped in. Tall, bald, military bearing. You weren't supposed to come here, he said calmly. Jennings raised her weapon. Federal warrant. Drop your hands. He smiled. You think this is about law? Josh stared. Who are you? He looked at Rex. I'm the man who designed your dog's replacement. Rex growled, lips pulling back. You think instinct is loyalty? The man said. It's code, and we cracked it. He tapped a tablet. Rex jerked, just slightly. Josh turned, alarmed. Rex? He whispered. Rex's breathing hitched. They tagged him in Franklin, the man said. Microstim inserts, to see if we could rewrite loyalty. Josh's eyes widened. You turned him into a lab rat? No, the man said. Into a legend. He stepped forward. Rex didn't move. Jennings fired. The bullet hit the man's shoulder. He dropped the tablet, stumbled. Rex snapped back into motion. He lunged, taking the man down hard. The glass pods hissed open. Alarms began to blare. We have to go! Ivy shouted. They carried the children out through the stairwell. Josh looked back once at the blinking servers, the mountains of data. He pulled the fire suppression lever. Halon gas filled the room. He didn't look back again. Outside, snow fell harder. The kids were loaded into an emergency vehicle Marvin had hacked from the facility's garage. They drove 2 towns south, switched cars again, and headed toward the airstrip. No words, only silence, and the sound of Rex breathing beside Josh, head against his knee. Later, as they flew home, Jennings sat across from him. We're not done. No, Josh said. We're just getting started. Rex stirred, eyes never closing, watching, waiting, ready. The safe house outside Spokane was quiet, too quiet. Josh hadn't spoken much since the flight back from Alaska. Megan was pacing the hallway, arms tightly folded. Emily clung to her stuffed elephant, oblivious. The kids they'd rescued were now under witness protection, escorted to a medical facility with Ivy. But something still felt unfinished, broken. Rex sat by the front door, alert, not pacing, not whining, watching. He knew something was coming. At 2:03 a.m., the landline rang. Josh answered. Static. Then a voice. You think you shut us down? The man from Anchorage. You destroyed data, not doctrine. Dawn Route was a prototype. You just made us pivot. Josh gripped the phone. We have your wife's medical history, the full scans, your daughter's biometric model. You think this ends because you pulled a fire alarm? Josh didn't respond. The man chuckled. You started something you can't finish. We built the future inside your home. The echo strain is alive, and it's not in the kids anymore. It's in Rex. Click. Josh slammed the phone down. Jennings was already loading a Glock when he turned. They're escalating, she said. We have to assume full-on retaliation. Marvin burst into the room, laptop underarm. I just got a ping. The encrypted relay inside your house, it's back online. Josh's blood ran cold. I ripped that out. Not the second one. It was dormant, triggered remotely. And it's sending signals to someone local. Megan stepped into the room. Local? Josh met her eyes. They're here. They set up cameras, laid traps, posted motion sensors around the perimeter. Josh placed tripwires outside the back door. Rex checked each entry point, one by one, nose twitching, head turning like a radar. By 3:12 a.m. it began. First, the silence. No bugs, no wind. Even the refrigerator hum cut off. Then, the blackouts. All 4 security cameras dropped at once. Jennings spoke fast. Generators are isolated. They're jamming with a portable EMP, non-military, probably Mercs. Josh grabbed the emergency kit. Rex barked, loud, fast. 3 times. They're here. Jennings moved to the kitchen window. A figure was climbing the fence. Silent. Precise. She fired. Missed. The man ducked behind the garage. Another came from the back. Then 2 more. They were surrounding them. Megan rushed Emily to the panic room. Josh followed, but stopped halfway down the hall when he saw Rex bolt toward the front door. He opened it. Rex charged out, straight into the snow-covered field. Josh followed without thinking. Two attackers flanked from the left. Josh ducked, swung the bat, hit one in the knee. Rex took down the second. Snarling. Precise. Brutal. Jennings pinned a third near the front steps. Marvin lit the porch with a high-frequency strobe blinding one intruder. But then, out of the tree line, came something none of them expected. Another dog. Same build, same breed, same stare. Josh froze. Rex growled, low, confused. It wasn't just any German shepherd. It was trained. The other dog approached Rex slowly, not aggressive, calculating. "Josh," Jennings called, "that's not just a dog. That's a neural mimic." Rex circled, tail stiff, eyes locked. The other dog lunged. They collided with a thud, rolling across the snow, teeth bared, claws scraping. Josh reached for Rex stopped when he saw the collar on the other dog's neck. It blinked. Blue light. Embedded chip. Dawn root-eyed. "They cloned his instincts," Marvin shouted from the porch. "It's Rex." Or it was. Jennings fired a warning shot. The Dawn root dog flinched enough for Rex to break the lock. He pinned the mimic. Didn't bite. Just stared. Then walked away. Josh stepped between them. The mimic dog blinked. And sat. Not out of training, out of hesitation. Something broke. Josh knelt, its ears flattened. It looked at him, not as a soldier, but something lost. Megan came running, Emily in her arms. The mimic looked at the baby, whined. Once, then ran into the woods. Gone. Rex didn't chase. Josh turned to Jennings. "They didn't build a killer. They built a ghost." Jennings nodded. And it remembered something. The rest of the night passed in silence. Police arrived by dawn. The attackers were gone. All but one, unconscious in the snow, whispering over and over. He knew. The dog knew. They were still afraid. Of Rex. 2 days later, in a debriefing room outside Seattle, Ivy laid out the final files. "They're not going to stop," she said. "But they can't rebuild what Rex did. Loyalty isn't code. It's connection." Jennings added, "That second dog, they copied his responses, but they couldn't copy his judgment." Josh sat beside Rex, who rested at his feet. Megan held Emily close. "We fight back," Josh said, "but not like them. Not in shadows. We show what loyalty really looks like." Ivy slid a folder across the table. "Then let's start with this," she said. Inside, an image of a man, high clearance, Gravine contractor, still active, and behind him, another child, another crib, another German shepherd. But this time, they weren't alone, because Rex was watching. And waiting. 3 months later, the snow had melted from Franklin's rooftops. Life had returned, but nothing was the same. Josh stood at the edge of the training field behind the new facility. A modest setup funded not by the government, but by people. Families. Survivors. He watched Rex sprint down the course, flawless in form, tail high, nose sharp. Not just a protector. A symbol. Megan leaned against the fence with Emily on her hip. She looked at Josh. "Did you ever think we'd be here?" she asked. "Never," he said. "Not after Alaska. Not after that night." Across the field, Jennings stood with a group of new recruits, handlers, and dogs alike. She nodded once as Rex completed the obstacle course, then pointed to the next K9. Rex trotted back to Josh, eyes bright, breath steady. Josh knelt. You still outrun all of them, don't you, buddy? Rex licked his chin and settled beside Emily, gently pressing his head against her legs. Josh smiled. This wasn't the end. Later that afternoon, a delivery van pulled up outside the center. Marvin stepped out, carrying a case marked Triarch Data Recovery. Josh opened it. Inside, the final fragments of the Dawn Root server, decrypted. Found something, Marvin said. Last bit of hidden data, buried under an old employee ID someone who vanished 5 years ago. He showed Josh the screen. A short video. A child. Not Emily. Another little boy. Sitting with a dog that looked eerily like Rex. Josh blinked. When was this filmed? 2019, Marvin said. They were testing loyalty models years before they launched Echo Strain. Josh leaned in. On screen, the child reached for the dog. The dog flinched, then licked the boy's hand. Jennings stepped in. Where was this? Wilmington, Marvin said. But the kid never showed up in any trial records. Jennings pulled out her phone. That's because he wasn't a subject. He was the son of one of Dawn Root's creators. Josh frowned. You're saying one of the engineers tested the program on his own kid? No, Jennings said. I'm saying he defected. Marvin added, there's a name on the internal logs, one that helped build the control chip inside Rex. Josh looked up. Who? Marvin hesitated, then showed the name. Ivy Santos. Josh froze. No, she helped us. She also helped build the core interface, Marvin said. Maybe she wanted to fix it, or maybe she was trying to cover her tracks. Jennings exhaled. If she's still out there, we need to find her. Josh looked at Rex. Rex's ears twitched, nose lifted, as if he knew. That night, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Josh sat alone on the porch. Emily slept inside. Megan dozed on the couch. Rex lay beside him, quiet. You saved her life, Josh said softly. You changed all of ours. Rex didn't move, just nudged Josh's hand. You were never just a dog. Josh looked at the stars. Cold, clear. People talk about AI and control and conditioning, but you taught us the only thing that really matters. He paused. Loyalty. He was still staring at the sky when Megan joined him, 2 mugs of tea in her hands. You thinking about her? She asked. Ivy? Yeah. She knew what she was part of, Megan said. But she chose to step in anyway. Maybe that's what matters. I just keep wondering how many other projects are still alive out there. How many other wrecks, or worse. You think we'll ever really be safe? Josh looked at Rex. Rex didn't bark, didn't flinch, just watched the darkness. I think as long as he's watching. Josh said, we've got a chance. Weeks later, the program officially launched. A new initiative, Ghost Line. A network of retired canines and military handlers, trained not just to detect threats, but to teach connection. Real loyalty. To people who needed it most, children in crisis, veterans with trauma, broken families rebuilding. And Rex? Rex led the first team, not just as a subject, as a hero. He visited schools, shelters, recovery centers. Kids who hadn't spoken in months would whisper to him. Survivors touched his fur and remembered what safety felt like. One morning, Josh found Rex lying beside a teenager who had attempted to run away. The boy was asleep. Rex didn't move an inch for hours. When the boy woke, he wrapped both arms around Rex's neck and cried. Josh didn't say a word. Just let it happen, because that was the point. If you've ever had a moment when your dog sensed something before you did, when they barked before danger, when they sat beside you in silence and made you feel safe, then you already know what this story is about. Rex was never just a pet. he was a guardian, a protector, a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from technology or force, but from heart and loyalty that can't be programmed. What's your story with a loyal dog? Share it below, and if Rex's journey moved you even just a little, subscribe, follow, and join our community, because there are more stories out there, and some of them are waiting to be told.